So our next speaker this morning is going to brings a background in tech and aerospace and now ag. Megan Nunes is the CEO and founder of Vinsight, but she has a background in the tech and startup industries, aerospace, and she has brought that all together in her newest endeavor, which is bringing all of her passion, all of her experiences back into a company where there is this intersection with agriculture. We're thrilled to have her with us, and she's got a background in ag, dairy science from Cal Poly, and on to aerospace. So please help me in welcoming Megan Nunes.
Yeah, I can still say it's good morning. I was going to say good afternoon, but good morning, everyone. I'm really excited to be here. I'd like to thank both Marcus and Jesse for thinking of me and bringing me in. Really looking forward to meeting all of you later and getting to share kind of my story with you. So I'm a first-generation American. I'm the oldest of 4 girls and grew up in Gustine, California. And if you know where that is, you deserve 10 points. And for those of you who are not familiar with Gustine, here is some small context as to what kind of town it is. It's about 5,000 people large. Everyone who lives there either farms or is associated with the farming industry. And it's pretty much Portuguese, almost 100%. It's this weird little place, but it's very neat. And it's important for me to share this with you because it shaped my upbringing and understanding of who I am and where I have gone throughout my path as an adult. I was born into a dairy family, and it was the year that I was born my dad decided that he was ready to break away from the family business and go out on his own. He and my mom started their fertilizer company over 28 years ago now, and I've had the great opportunity to watch and learn from their challenges, successes, and growth. This fed into my early entrepreneurial spirit, and it's the tie to my parents' business that helped encourage me to be involved in the FFA organization while I was in high school, which drove many of my early adult decisions. While in the FFA, I participated in pretty much everything they had to offer. Public speaking, dairy judging contest, I showed pigs for a little bit, involved in leadership offices and opportunities they had there, and I even ran for state office my senior year of high school. While I was fortunate to be slated, I was not elected officer, and I went to Cal Poly San Luis Obispo to go on my typical path, if you will, to study dairy science in the College of Agriculture. It was during my 3rd year at Cal Poly that I started noticing a lot of boredom in my brain, and I wasn't feeling challenged anymore, and I started looking around, and all of these people were the exact same people that I always knew, and they all had the exact same background as me. Everybody came to Cal Poly to learn dairy science or crop science or whatever it may be, to then take that information and go back home to the family farm and apply that. And while that lifespan is good for many people, and I can appreciate it, and I encourage those who that fits for me it just wasn't right, and I found myself like, no way, this isn't for me. So while I was in college, I had a part-time job working at this aerospace company that was building small satellites in the frame of either a bread box or a shoebox called CubeSats. And they were building these satellites for NASA, JPL, Raytheon, and the list goes on. And I began to be totally enamored by the work this small team of dedicated engineers was building. And at that moment in time, I found myself constantly going away from my business manager responsibilities to try to sit at the table with them and learn, what is it that you're doing, and why are you doing it this way, and what is this mission for? And it really pushed a curious level in me that I don't think I can ever go back from. While I was at this company, they were working on a remote sensing constellation to basically build satellites to take pictures of the Earth. And we built IP around this. While I was there, I had the opportunity to secure investment from some outside investors and move this small team of 7 people from San Luis Obispo to the Silicon Valley, where we more than tripled in size within our first year. It was absolutely crazy, but very fun. And within that first year of the business, we launched 2 6U satellites in a matter of 6 months. And if you know anything about the aerospace industry, that's like unprecedented. It takes years and decades for anything to go from ground design to space. And that basically kicked us off into the later time frame of us building out our remote sensing constellation to take pictures of the Earth. And I remember very distinctly while sitting around at this table discussing who our customer was and what product were we going to serve. Who was going to buy our data? All of these sorts of questions you ask early on in a company's development. nobody really had any good answers, which was kind of weird for one. And then the second thing was is the remote sensing and satellite industry really services 4 main industries, which is why I'm bringing this whole long story up. It's either oil and gas, government, infrastructure, or the agriculture sector. And so being that nobody else knew anything about anything of the other industries there, and I was the only person in the room who knew anything about agriculture, I was like, hey, let's focus on the agriculture industry. And I decided to make that my baby. So I was their chief operating officer at the time. And my job was basically to go through and talk with farmers and potential users of our data to see how could this be beneficial. In that investigative process, I learned a lot of interesting things. One, farmers don't really give a whole lot of shits about NDVI. And if you don't know what NDVI is, it's basically a colored map that shows red means something is dead, yellow means something is wrong, you don't know what but something, and green means typically everything should be fine, but it's relatively healthy. More or less, that's what NDVI tells you. It doesn't give you anything more than that. And I began to feel really bothered by that because I was like, man, this company just raised a whole bunch of millions of dollars to build all these satellites, but we don't have anybody to sell data to. And so at that moment in time, I decided, you know what, the company is at a good place. It's time for me to tap into the entrepreneurial spirit that was poured into me through my parents, and I'm going to leave and start what is now called Vinsight. So Vinsight was born in May of 2014, and we are currently in our 3rd year of doing crop forecasting for both almonds and grapes here in the state of California, and we will be expanding to Australia this winter, which is really awesome, and finally. And so basically, I have had this unique experience throughout my both educational kind of career and my modern day career as to where I am. I have been a female that has been in a very male-dominated field. I would almost argue aerospace is more male-dominated than agriculture, believe it or not, if you can. And I am now back into an industry that I left for over 7 years, and it feels different this time, very different. The people that I was able to have pour into me from a new sector and from a new place inherently changed the way that I think and how I problem solve and how I process. It has also given me an opportunity to keep 2 legs in both ponds between the Central Valley of California, where my husband and I recently bought a house this year so we could be closer to that world, and San Francisco, which is a very different place where I spend almost half of my time in 2 very different worlds. And I feel great responsibility with that. It is my job now to basically make sure that I am a spokesperson for both sides because I can speak both languages to both people. And I want to be a change for the status quo against what is typically seen as the agricultural sector. Not a single person on our team of 8 people at Vinsight knows anything about agriculture. I'm still the only person, which is crazy to me. And I couldn't even ask those people that, hey, we're going to move this company from San Francisco to Modesto, California. People probably like, are you nuts? No way, I'm not going. And so I take this on as my challenge for this next few years as Vinsight continues to grow, to try to bring these communities closer together and help people understand that 1, we're not so different, 2, everybody needs to eat, and that need is not going away anytime soon. And there's a lot that is exciting and that's going on in this space, and people need to be a part of it. So with that, thank you so much. It's been wonderful to be here, and look forward to talking with you all later.
Megan, thank you for sharing your story with us and for sharing your entrepreneurial spirit. It's fun to see someone so excited about the work that they're doing, and especially someone who's giving back so much to the ag industry. Thanks again.
Thanks.
Let's give one more round of applause for all of our Power Talks this morning.